topic for today. I had been talking about another video, but I don't know if I really finished it off, was comparing the Subaru to the Jeep to the Tahoe. Now, what I'm really comparing is a small, relatively capable vehicle to a what I would call a medium. I think, you know, compared to this, the Jeep is smaller than this, the Wrangler is smaller than this, so, you know, a medium-sized vehicle to a large vehicle like a Suburban, a Tahoe, Ford Excursion, something like that. And so what got me thinking about that was actually me on my trip being saying a few times how much I missed the Tahoe. But I really was saying it because the Tahoe, anytime I take off my seatbelt to do a video, to video a water crossing or to do anything, it starts beeping at you. The Jeep does, the Wrangler does. So does the Subaru. But the Tahoe doesn't care if you die from a crash because you didn't have your seatbelt on, because it doesn't beep at you. But I like that. Don't beep at me. But you know, I started thinking about the three of them and comparing them, and you know, let's start with the obvious, gas mileage. Because the Subaru, the biggest selling point of the Subaru, in my opinion, the biggest reason I like driving it versus these other two that I have, would be the gas mileage. You know, I said it earlier in the video that I'm making now. I go out and ride 4 hours in the Subaru and I use up a little tiny, not even a quarter of a tank of gas. I come out here and ride for 4 or 5 hours in this Tahoe and I use you know, half a tank to 3/4 tank of gas. So, and it's a big old tank. This thing averages 14 to 15. I haven't gotten 15 yet. I'm going to say 14. But it's always 14.1 to 14.9. It just won't go less. It won't go more unless I'm doing something stupid. And so at 14.5 miles per gallon, this thing is half the gas mileage that the Subaru gets. So I can go twice as far. So, you know, the Wrangler, you should be able to get 16, 18 in it. I don't, but that's another story for another day. But if you're here to try to think, oh, should I get a little one, a bigger one, a little medium one? What should I, you know, what do I want? What do I get? Gas mileage one, the Subaru wins. The Wrangler comes in second, and the Bronco is the Tahoe is last. But then you go to the other side of the spectrum of why, and you go to space. You know, the amount of space that this Tahoe has is way more than my Wrangler. Sleeping in here and carrying stuff in here and everything else, this thing by far beats the Wrangler, and it sure definitely whoops out the Subaru, the Crosstrek. And so when it comes to that, now, you know, the Tahoe comes in number one. When it comes to space, the Wrangler comes in second, and the Crosstrek Subaru, the small, comes in last and third. Then you talk about, you know, what I'm doing, you don't need that much capability, but there comes a time where you get into it, if you know, it's just the way it is. And so when you're talking about capability, now we're going to have a new winner, because I'm going to go with the Wrangler. Tahoe, most would argue that has just as much capability as the Wrangler, and I would agree with that, except for that this thing is heavier and bigger, wider. Not necessarily that much longer unless you get into a Suburban or an Excursion or something, but it's bigger. And so the capabilities of that Wrangler, considering that it can climb a rock, fit between two trees, you know, be able to be turned around in a relatively smallish area, it beats this thing, in my opinion, out. Sure, when you're talking about getting out of a mud hole or this or that, yeah, you could argue these two have a pretty decent equal chance, but in my opinion, and I have all three of them, I drive all three of them, when it comes to capabilities, the Wrangler is going to be number one. The Tahoe will be number two, and only because it does not have the clearance or the low, you know, it doesn't have the low, that all these other two have. The Subaru comes in last when we're talking about capability. Then we can go to comfort, and right off the bat I can tell you the Wrangler's the least most comfortable of the three. Just because it's narrow inside. I'm not that big of a guy. At 5'8", my shoulders are a little bit wide, I would say. I don't have, you know, I'm not a skinny guy. But to me, the Wrangler is the least comfortable of the three, of these three. It just the way you fit in there. You know, the seats are fine. The little traffic jam here. The seats are fine, not a big deal. But yeah, in my opinion, the Wrangler is the least comfortable of these three. And it's not uncomfortable, it's just the least comfortable of these three. If I was going to give the edge, the Subaru and this one are pretty close in my mind, but the roominess of the Tahoe wins it of why it's so comfortable. I mean, you sit in here, I feel like I'm sitting on a daggum recliner, just chilling like a villain up here. And so I'm going to give it to one. So Tahoe number one as far as how comfortable it is, 2 to the Crosstrek, and 3 to the Wrangler. And then, you know, that also depends. You start putting shocks and bigger wheels and tires and this and that, and you know, that starts changing the geometry of everything and bumpiness and all that stuff. But that's the way I'm going to go with it. I'm going to throw in another category of nimbleness, because nimbleness does have something to do with it. And so the Subaru is by far, way far more nimble than the Wrangler or the Tahoe. Even when empty, all three of them empty, I could be doing 5 miles an hour faster on here without feeling uncomfortable than I can do in the Tahoe or the Wrangler. The Wrangler I've got weighted down more than it should be, and so that, you know, takes some things off of the Wrangler, points off the Wrangler for me. But most people, if you're going to be doing this, you know, if you have an empty Wrangler, then, you know, this might change a little bit. But because I used to love that two-door TJ, that's what I loved about that two-door TJ, was how nimble that thing was. And so, you know, I'm going to give the nimbleness to the Subaru, and it does make a difference. You know, being nimble, being able to go on routes and tracks and ruts where the Jeeps have rutted out one area, but the little, you know, Subaru can just climb around it on a different path because it's, you know, it's like a little goat. That makes a difference. Now the Tahoe, least nimble, also has this wide wheelbase. It feels like, I don't know by the numbers, but I feel like I can go over on the outside of ruts. Like I don't get into the same rut ruts that most are there, the ruts that are there. So that makes it, you know, that makes it cool. That makes it good, but not nimble. So I would not put it in the category of nimble. What other categories are there? Towing. If you're going to be towing a trailer, that one is obvious, super obvious. The Subaru's the worst tower of all three, especially with that CVT transmission. You don't want to be towing a lot with that thing. A small vehicle, if you want to be towing, I wouldn't use the Subaru, especially if you got to get off road and try to tow it through a mud hole or something. You don't have the power, you don't have the, towing, basically. I mean, obviously, Subaru's the worst. The small one would be the worst. Then would be the Wrangler. It tows fine. It definitely, I would not want to tow without a brake controller. Anything too heavy or anything out in the mountains when you're going downhill for a long time, burning those brakes up, you want a brake controller on that. Even if your trailer's small or smallish. It's my opinion. And of course, then the Tahoe is just a beast, and it's a V8, and it, you know, most of these, if you're going to be buying a Suburban, a Tahoe, an Excursion, you're talking about 8 cylinders or more, powerful, made to tow, built that way. And all right, let's see, which way am I going? Which way am I going? I'm gonna go to the right. No, I'm not. I'm gonna go straight. So yeah, that's, to me, when it comes to towing, obvious answer is the Tahoe or the bigger vehicle would be best when towing. You're towing something smaller, the Wrangler would be not bad. You know, just equip it correctly, and it would probably be the winner in that category. If you don't have it all weighted down and all your stuff is on the trailer, then yeah, you know, that makes a difference. And so again, the way you have your Wrangler set up, or the middle-sized vehicle set up, would make a difference. The 392 Wrangler, that's a whole nother story, right? I mean, now you're adding, I don't know what kind of tow that thing will do as far as weight, and if the weight's different, it doesn't, if the weight's not any different because it's the vehicle that matters, then understandable, but at least you'll have the power to pull it up hills, pull it out of mud holes, you know, pull your trailer out of whatever. And so that makes a big difference, but I still will give the towing edge to the big vehicles. As, you know, a towing, a little camping over, and we're talking about here camping in Overland. I'm talking, you know, towing an RV rig or something. And so towing anything medium to small, that's the way I'm going to judge it. Category that I would add, and I think about, I think it's important to me, is the ability to add, modify your rig. And so this is more, you know, I'm trying to generally talk about, yes, New Dirt Road, that's number 9 for today. I don't have this one on my maps. Sweet. Yeah. So this might be a little more car dependent, but you know, like the Wrangler itself, you can bolt anything on in 2 seconds, basically. Wheels, tires, lifts, anything. There's so many, it's made for it, you know, and so yeah, you know, it's easy. It's super easy. The Tahoe's old enough that there's stuff out here to bolt things to, and I've seen for the Excursions and, you know, the Suburbans, obviously, like the Tahoe, you can bolt on some lifts and some winches and things like that. The Subaru has its lifts, the Subaru, you know, but it's nothing compared to a, you know, lifting a Wrangler, lifting a Tahoe. You're limited sizes are limited, and so yeah, I'm not gonna get into a ranking those, but as far as brand specific, I would say obviously the Wrangler has the biggest amount of aftermarket parts, you know, out there. And then you can start into maybe the Toyotas, you know, because people have been using them for so much and so long. The Tacomas and the 4Runners. So yeah, that one's kind of more brand specific than it is size of vehicle specific. But something to think about if that's why you're watching this video. What other categories do you think? Talked about, you know, nimbleness and capableness, and you know, looks is another category that's just a little too personal. What looks good to you might not look to somebody else. Look good to somebody else. I love the look of the Subaru, the Crosstrek. The Outbacks aren't ugly to me. The Wranglers are just classic, just square boxes. I think they're beautiful to me. The Tacomas and 4Runners and such, those are good looking vehicles to me. The newer ones are looking meaner and meaner. I like them. It's pretty cool. This old Tahoe it's ageless in my opinion. It still looks very it looks very capable. I mean, comparable to things out, you know, my opinion. Again, you know, Suburbans, the Excursions are just beast of vehicles that I think are cool. So yeah, that one, obviously, matter of opinion. It all depends on what you think. What you like best. Any categories that I'm leaving out that would make the most sense to compare a small SUV, a tiny, or I should say tiny, but a small SUV, such as a Crosstrek or a Outback? What else would be in that category? Maybe the little Bronco, the little tiny Bronco, the Compass, the Cherokee. You know, I would put all those Trailhawks, the Liberty. My buddy wheeled the Liberty hard, and that thing was just fine and dandy doing the things that he was asking it to do. Mid-size, I would call it the Tacomas, the Toyotas. You know, do they have a small thingy? That's what she said. That's what she asked. Do they have any smaller vehicles that people wheel? We've got I put the Maverick over there in the small ones. Then you talk about the Ford Rangers, the Tacomas, the Colorados, the 4Runners. I put the Wrangler in the same category. What else have I seen people take out? Yeah, all those in the same thing. And then, you know, there's not much big stuff. The Suburbans, the Tahoes, you know, they got the newer ones. I've seen a few people wheeling them. The Excursions, my buddy used to wheel an Excursion. Thoughts. Having a Subaru Crosstrek in hand, having a Wrangler in hand, Grand Cherokee, I had, you know, wheeled one of those. The older ones seemed better, the ones that didn't have any of the air suspension and were able to be lifted or put some bigger wheels, tires, whatever on them. Those seem a lot better. capable. Obviously, most of the Jeeps are pretty capable, especially for what I do. We're not talking about rock crawling here. We're just talking about some long distance gravel travel. That's going to be my new little catchphrase there. I like it, gravel travel. Yeah, I can't think of anything of the bigger ones. What else do people drive wheel that's big? It's only the Tahoes, right? Oh, maybe the I've seen a couple Sequoias out there. The Toyota Sequoias. Those are pretty big beasts. I saw a couple of them at one of the expos I went to. You know, hope this helps. And if you're looking to decide, oh man, what should I get? It's, to me, in my opinion, it's pretty obvious. But you know, if you're on the fence between one or the other because of what you do and what you intend to do with a vehicle, that's really where it's at. What do you intend to do with it? If you know you're going to want to get into some nasty, rough stuff, don't you dare go buying a Crosstrek or something that does not have a true four-wheel drive system, a true four-low. It's not going to do you well. Just go ahead and bite the bullet and do it, Get the right thing for the job. And you? That's the advice from Vman1313. Take it or leave it. Hope you enjoyed my thoughts on that. It's Vman1313.